Tonight, you will climb into bed alone, or maybe next to someone, and pull a blanket over your body. You will close your eyes, and within minutes, you will try to do one of the most vulnerable things a human being can do. You will make yourself unconscious. You will go completely limp. You will stop watching for threats. And you will do it in a room, probably by yourself, probably behind a closed door, probably in total silence. And you have been told your whole life that this is normal. But it is not normal. It is one of the strangest things your species has ever done. For almost the entirety of human existence, no one slept alone. Not once. Not by choice. Not by accident. The idea of a single person retreating to a private chamber, sealed off from other bodies, lying in silence until morning, that idea would have seemed to your ancestors like a form of punishment, or madness, or death. Here is what the science actually shows, and it will change how you think about your bed, your sleep, and maybe your whole relationship to other people. Anthropologist Carol Worthman spent decades studying sleep across human cultures. What she found was staggering. In nearly every traditional society she examined, from the Efe of Central Africa to rural communities in India to indigenous populations across South America, people did not sleep alone. They slept in groups, bodies pressed together, infants on chests, siblings tangled together, elders at the edges. The concept of a personal sleeping space, one body per bed per room, simply did not exist. Worthman called modern Western sleep a very weird experiment. And she meant that literally. Your brain was not built for a dark, silent room. It was built for the savannah, for the forest floor, for the edge of a dying fire. And in those places, sleep was not something you did alone, because sleeping alone, in the dark, separated from your group, was how you died. A predator does not announce itself. A snake does not give warnings. The threats of the ancient world moved quietly, and they moved fastest toward the body that was isolated. So your nervous system developed a very specific rule. If you are alone in the dark and it is quiet, something is wrong. Stay alert. Do not go too deep. That rule is still running inside you right now. It is why so many people cannot fall asleep without background noise. It is why some people sleep better when a dog is in the room, even if the dog is small and useless in any real emergency. It is why the sound of another person breathing nearby can drop your heart rate and slow your mind in a way that no amount of white noise ever quite replicates. Your nervous system does not know you live in a house with a lock on the door. It is still listening for the rustle in the grass. Psychologist James McKenna has spent his career studying what he calls cosleeping, the practice of sleeping in physical proximity to others, particularly infants sleeping near caregivers. His research at the Mother-Baby Behavioral Sleep Laboratory at the University of Notre Dame found something extraordinary. When a mother and infant sleep near each other, even without touching, their breathing patterns begin to synchronize. Their sleep cycles begin to align. The mother's presence literally regulates the infant's physiology. The infant's oxygen levels stabilize. Arousal responses that protect against sudden death in infancy become more frequent and more effective. The infant sleeps better. The mother sleeps better. And the entire system functions the way it was designed to function. As a unit, not as two separate individuals in separate rooms. McKenna argues controversially that the modern Western model of infant sleep, alone, in a crib, in a separate room, is not the natural baseline. It is the experiment. And we have been running it for only about 200 years. 200 years. That is nothing. Modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years. Your ancestors slept in groups for 299,800 of those years. The private bedroom is not an ancient human tradition. It is a product of the Industrial Revolution, of Victorian ideas about privacy and moral propriety, of the invention of central heating that made it possible for people to survive cold nights without sharing body warmth. The single occupancy bedroom only became widespread because wealthy people in Europe could afford to build houses with extra rooms. And then that habit, that very recent, very unusual habit, got exported to the rest of the world as the modern standard. You inherited a sleeping arrangement designed by wealthy Victorians, and your body has been confused by it ever since. Think about what happens when you cannot sleep. Really think about it. Your mind races. You feel vaguely anxious even though nothing is wrong. You check the time. You stare at the ceiling. You feel a low, unnamed dread that seems to arrive the moment the lights go out. Researchers have a name for what drives that state. It is hyperarousal, and one of its most reliable triggers is isolation. Neuroscientist Matthew Walker, whose research on sleep is now some of the most cited in the world, describes sleep deprivation as one of the most catastrophic things you can do to a human body. Chronic poor sleep is linked to heart disease, to depression, to immune collapse, to accelerated cognitive decline. Walker calls insufficient sleep the silent sleep loss epidemic. But here is what most people do not connect. The conditions we have created for sleep, isolated, silent, private, may themselves be contributing to the very sleep problems we are trying to solve. You have been given a bed to sleep in alone and then told to wonder why you cannot relax. Across cultures that still practice communal sleeping, rates of insomnia are dramatically lower. Anthropologist Brigitte Steger, who studied sleep patterns in Japan, found that the Japanese concept of inamirai, the practice of sleeping in public spaces, on trains, in meetings, in the presence of others, reflects a deeply different relationship to sleep. Sleep in that context is not a private retreat. It is something that happens in the flow of communal life, and the body, surrounded by other bodies, simply slips in and out of rest with far less resistance. Your body wants that permission. It has always wanted it. The permission to let go in the presence of others. The permission to become vulnerable while someone else is awake. The permission that for 300,000 years was granted automatically because you were never alone. There is something else, something almost unbearable in its simplicity. The reason humans are so bad at sleeping alone is the same reason humans are so bad at being alone in general. You are a social species, not in a soft, metaphorical sense, in a hard, biological sense. Your immune system functions better when you have strong social bonds. Your cardiovascular system is more regulated. Your cortisol levels are lower. Your brain's threat detection systems quiet down. Loneliness, actual social isolation, has measurable physiological effects that look nearly identical to chronic stress. Because to your nervous system, loneliness and danger are the same signal. They have always meant the same thing. Separated from the group. Vulnerable. Unprotected. Act accordingly. The researchers at Brigham Young University conducted a massive meta-analysis of studies on social connection and health outcomes. They found that loneliness and social isolation increase the risk of early death by 26%, by 29%, in some measures by as much as 50%. These numbers rival smoking. They rival obesity. And yet nobody puts a warning label on a studio apartment. When you feel that strange, hollow ache late at night, when the silence presses in and the thoughts will not stop, you are not being irrational. You are not failing at adulthood. You are a 300,000-year-old animal experiencing the biological alarm that was designed to fire exactly when it fires. In the dark, alone, with no one to hear you. The alarm is working perfectly. The environment is the problem. None of this means you need to immediately start sleeping in a pile with your extended family. Cultures change. Bodies adapt. The world you live in is not the savannah, and no predator is circling your apartment building. But knowing this changes something. It changes how you interpret the restlessness. It changes how you talk to yourself at 3 in the morning when the quiet feels like it has weight. It changes how you understand the strange, immediate comfort of having another body in the room, even a sleeping one, even one you are not touching. That comfort is not weakness, it is information. It is ancient data, still accurate, still being transmitted by a nervous system that has not received the update that you are safe. You are wired for proximity, for the sound of another person's breath in the dark, for the warmth of a body near yours that says, without any words at all, the group is intact, the fire is still burning, you can let go now. Tonight, when you lie down and pull the blanket over your body, you are not just trying to sleep. You are trying to convince 300,000 years of evolution that you are not alone. And some nights, that is the hardest thing in the world.